that was shameful what the Chargers did. It's their first year. They went from a 5-win team to 11-win team, and they're going to add players, and they could be better in the future. But I just want to say, as someone who covered the Harbaugh years, I can't freaking believe that he's still with Greg Roman. I can't believe it. And it makes me lose confidence in Jim Harbaugh as a coach. I don't understand it. John Harbaugh had Greg Roman, fired him.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Your brother fired the guy.
Your brother fired the guy. Go to Thanksgiving, have a brief conversation. What do you think of Greg Roman? He's trash. I fired him. Okay, thanks, John. What are you doing, dude? You got to know someone better than him.
There's two things wrong with the Chargers right now, and I tweeted this out when they hired Jim Harbaugh. That the worst thing about Jim Harbaugh is Greg Roman, and I don't understand it either. I don't get it. I hate his offensive play calling. And then you watch that Chargers game. I mean, they got one receiver, but this is the buildup for Jim Harbaugh, right? Like he got rid of his high-paid wide receiver.
He's going to finish the offensive line this year and get another wide receiver, and they're going to be better next year.
They'll be better. They'll be better. So, but the problem is,
but they'll still find a way to score 17 points in a critical game in the playoffs because of freaking Greg Roman. I can't freaking believe it.
He's got to move on from Roman. Man. I like his young defensive coordinator. That guy's an up and comer too.
Yep.
But Greg Roman, I've just never been a big fan of the way he called plays. Like that 49ers team should have won that Super Bowl. But I think Roman's play calling is what stopped them.
It's interesting. Some people have whatever their Achilles heels. And for Jim Harbaugh, it's always been Greg Roman. And one of the things I like about John Harbaugh, some people think Jim's better than John. I think John's better than Jim. John has reinvented himself so many times on offense. He's had so many different offensive coordinators.
3-0 against Harbaugh.
Coordinators. Yeah.
He's 3-0 against his little brother. So, yeah, he is better.
He hasn't had a ton of success in the playoffs with Lamar yet, but I think that's about to change. And they could very easily win the Super Bowl. He could be a 2-time Super Bowl winner. I think John's a hell of a coach. We'll see.
I hate that the Bills, the Ravens, and the Chiefs are all in the AFC. I hate that because those are the three best teams in the NFL. And unfortunately,
it's like when we were kids and it was the Niners, the Cowboys, and the Packers.
It's the exact thing, except opposite now. Like
it used to be opposite. And you watch these teams play, it's like, holy shit, that's a whole different level of football in the AFC. Like, we're not seeing that in the NFC. Whoa.
That's the thing that's annoying too about this whole Tomlin talk. Like they lost to the freaking Ravens. How have the Niners and Kyle Shanahan's never beaten the Ravens?
That's a good point.
If the 49ers were in the AFC, how many Super Bowls would they have been to? I would say zero. I would say
zero.
And
if Kyle were coaching that Steelers team this year with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, they would have missed the playoffs.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like people are like, hey, Tomlin's got to go. Hey, that's fine. If you believe that, that's fine. I'm not going to argue against it. I don't have no dog in that fight. Get rid of Tomlin all you want to. But don't in the same breath tell me that Kyle's doing enough if Tomlin's not doing enough. Because I guarantee you, if Kyle and these 49ers were in the AFC, they would not be getting past the Bills and the Ravens and the Chiefs. They wouldn't even go to the Super Bowl.
I tweeted out during the game that I think head coaches should have term limits. Like some of these coaches are there for 15, 20 years. It's like, dude, like move on and go coach another team. Like it's not working for you here anymore. You're a good coach. Okay. You don't deserve to get fired. No one says you deserve to you're good, but you got to go. So it's not going to happen for you here. I think that's the conversation with Kyle. I think that's the conversation with Tomlin. And I'd like to see teams just start trading coaches. Come on. Like it would be really cool for the Steelers to trade Tomlin to a team straight up for another head coach. I think that would make the league more interesting. How about Tomlin for Kyle straight up?
Well, it's the funny thing is like a lot of Niner fans, they're using this weekend to just dump on other teams, right? Tomlin's not a good coach. Herbert's a trashy quarterback. Love sucks. Like somehow the 49ers fans think they won something this weekend. But whatever, like to me, if you are a head coach, sometimes you just need a restart. But all these fans are saying, don't fire Kyle Shanahan. He'll be hired the next day. But fire Tomlin. Guess what? He'll be hired the next day. So that same philosophy you got to apply here. Like if you think they should fire Tomlin, no, you shouldn't because he's going to be hired the next day. Remember, guys? Well, if you don't think Kyle Shanahan
that's the case, then trade him. If there's so much value for this guy, then trade him and start over with someone else. I don't understand. Like teams are always churning their roster. Like, oh my God, you had one bad year. We got to get a new player. Like, but let's give this coach 15 years. Maybe someone else can do better if they're fresh and have new ideas and it's a new voice. I mean, I don't know.
I think
People
you
are
know
so
what Tomlin's
scared.
biggest problem is? He doesn't have a Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have Josh Allen. He doesn't have the Patrick Mahomes. He's in the AFC and he's in the AFC North. That's what Tomlin's problem is. To be real, his
What would Kyle
personnel
Shanahan's resume be if he were coaching in the AFC?
right.
How many
Not
Super Bowl
good.
appearances would Kyle Shanahan have if he were coaching in the AFC? None.
He's 0-7 against the Chiefs and the Ravens. So I would say he doesn't get to the Super Bowl.
And he hasn't beaten the Bills either.
There you go.
So, yeah.
And I don't know what his record is against the Bengals, but I know they brought it to him last year.
He beat them once, but that's when he had Jimmy.
So what is that?
But Brock,
what is he, like 11-1 against those teams?
yeah.
Or
someone earlier said
1 out of 11. Excuse me.
Yeah, someone earlier mentioned that Sean McDermott isn't high energy. Maybe not in like the D'Amico, Dan Campbell sense, but like after his team sure is, and after they beat the Niners, Sean McDermott was doing snow angels with Josh Allen on TV. I could never ever picture Kyle doing anything like that. He would never. He's too cool.
McDermott's another guy. He's in the same situation as Kyle Shanahan. He was hired a month before Kyle Shanahan. Still hasn't won a Super Bowl. So he's another guy that,
but they have like double-digit wins every single year. It's not exactly like he has these seasons where like the wheels fall off and it's like, well, what happened?
I just think when you are looking at AFC coaches, you have to consider that teams that are knocking them out are usually the teams that win the Super Bowl.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, who is Josh Allen and McDermott lost to in the playoffs? Like Mahomes.
Yeah. The Bengals. Right?
Bengals. Yeah. Bengals. Like the best teams. Yeah. Double B Studio says, hit this like button. Unfaithful Perspective says, hit this like button. Unfaithful Perspective says, question. The Niners don't end up signing Purdy this offseason if XYZ happens. What are your respective formulas for this equation? That's a good question.
It's a good question, but I think he absolutely the only X, Y, and Z, I'll add them all together, is if his arm isn't healthy. Other than that, they're going to sign Brock Purdy. No doubt in my mind. I think he'll be top 5 paid quarterback in the NFL.
Do you get the sense that Kyle Shanahan had a sit-down meeting with someone high up and tried to give his little spiel like, I don't really think Brock is necessarily the great quarterback we need? And they were like, yes, he is. You're going to make it work. That's your quarterback. And if he fails, you're out. Because he was like, that's going to be the quarterback I'm for as long as I'm here. It's like, really? Is that?
I don't know. It's hard to tell with Kyle. It wouldn't surprise me if Kyle feels. I think Kyle.
You really want to be stuck with Brock? Really? You?
I think Kyle likes the formula he has with Brock. He's going to run Kyle's stuff, and he's not going to try to be bigger, or he won't be looked at as bigger than Kyle. I think he's a good kid. I think Kyle likes him.
Doug in Wafa All's house says, happy birthday, Grant. We always comment on your show with your dad, but we also love your show with Ryan G. Hensley. Toast to a better 2025 for 49ers.
Thank you, buddy.
Toast to that. David Kendall Jr. says, happy birthday, Grant. If the Niners keep Purdy, pay him $25 to $30 million a year or tell him to kick rocks. That is what Chris Sims recommended, and I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I wouldn't tell him to kick rocks. I would just say, hey, we're going to let you play out your next season. But that's not going to happen. I think we like to talk about what we would do and what they should do, but the reality is they are going to pay Brock $50+ million per year. I would almost guarantee it.
All day, every day. Kim says JD is so clutch. Washington is in great hands. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Ethan M says Grant, the Niners season is over. Time to cover UFC 311. Andrew Hatley says Jim should have hired his OC from Michigan, not Greg. I agree. All day, every day. Kim says, who do you rather have at quarterback, Brock or We'll get to that in a second. Gene J says Adam Peters showed us why we need a real GM. Jeez, there's that too. Sean says, appreciate you asking Kyle Shanahan to evaluate himself. Is there a clever way to ask him about roster politics and player development? Does Brock's extension mean Kyle gets to have 2 failed seasons? I don't know.
I think if Kyle Shanahan has a failed season this coming year, I think he's fired. I think that would be the Emmanuel Acho. I always butcher names. I'm sorry, guys. That's this. You get used to it. Said that Kyle Shanahan's on the hot seat. I don't necessarily think he's on the hot seat, but I think if he repeats the same season he had last year, it'll go from 0 to 100 overnight, and he'll be fired or traded.